So with this video, we start descriptive statistics, the first block of this course, which will be about how to use different mathematical methods and different plots to describe your data. And in this first learning sequence, we will talk about what data is, what it consists of, and many other basic things which helps us to understand the full content of this course. Okay, so let's start with defining a problem. Let's say we have an apple tree, and in average apple tree, you have hundreds of apples. It can be up to 800 apples in one tree. And we would like to know how much of sugar we have in these apples. If you, for example, go to Wikipedia, you will find out that in average, apple has 10 grams of sugar per 100 grams of apples. So it's approximately 10% of the apple weight is different sugars. But does it mean that every apple on this tree has 10 grams of sugar? Well, we can check it, right? So we can just take an apple and do some measurements. For example, we can compute or we can measure percent of soluble sugar, which can be measured using a device which is called refractometer. This is how it looks like. You can also watch a video on YouTube. And the idea is just you squeeze juice from the apple into this little hole, and then it will tell you how much of soluble sugars you have. And for example, if I do it for my apple that you see here, I will get a value which is 9.6 gram per 100 grams of apple. Okay, so it's a little bit below 10, but does it mean that every apple on this tree has this value, has 9.6 grams? Well, again, we can check it, right? So we just need to collect more apples. For example, I will collect 5. And then I will repeat these measurements for every of these 5 apples. But then I will find out quickly that actually the apples do not have the same amount of sugar. So it varies from apple to apple. And then it leads us to the question, how much of sugar we have in the apples from this particular tree. And it seems like we can't answer this question because every apple has its own unique concentration of sugars. You will have this problem every time you do any experiments which are similar to this one. For example, every time you measure concentration of different chemicals, or every time you measure a yield of a chemical reaction, or maybe you measure concentration of contaminants in water, or even in just the simple tasks. For example, you want to buy a house in Aalborg and you want to know how much it costs. You will find out that every time you have different measurements, you will end up with different values. You will have different amount of sugar in apples. You will have different amount of, for example, chemicals in tap water. Even if you take 5 glasses of water from the same tap, from the same place, from the same flat, you will find out that the concentration will vary. So that means that you cannot answer this question exactly. But that's also why you need statistics. Statistics is a tool. It's one of the tasks of statistics is to describe and summarize and explore the values which you get as a result of experiments or observations. And that's what we are going to talk about in block number 1, how to describe results of your experiments, how to summarize results of your experiments in order to answer these or similar questions. But first of all, let's talk about some definitions in the next video.